Neeraj Chopra made history when he became the first Indian to clinch a silver medal in the World Athletics Championship this Sunday. Now, obviously, he was beaten to the gold medal just about by Grenada's Anderson Peters, who was in the form of his life in this particular event. Remember, he managed to land one, not two, but three throws that were in and above the 90-meter mark. Neeraj, on the other hand, was stuck in the 88.13 meter mark, but that takes nothing away from the accomplishment that Neeraj has made here. Remember, before this, he's of course been a gold medalist in the Olympics. He has also won medals in the Commonwealth Games as well as in the Junior World Athletics Championships. So this adds yet another feather to Neeraj Chopra's already illustrious hat. In fact, if you were watching this channel a little while back, you'd know that we were discussing as to whether or not Neeraj Chopra is arguably the greatest athlete that India has ever produced. And we mostly came to an agreement saying that resoundingly, yes, he is. So today, now we are going to relive how exactly it was that Neeraj Chopra managed to become the first Indian to get a silver in this particular event. Now, obviously, before the event, there was a lot of expectations on Neeraj, and for many ways, that is in itself a positive thing, because if you would remember, for Indian athletes, for the most part, there was never always that much hope. Generally speaking, India have always been underachievers when it comes to track and field events. Neeraj, of course, changed all that in a massive way by becoming a gold medalist at the Tokyo Olympics. So there was obviously expectation on him as to whether or not he could actually repeat that feat at the World Athletics Championships, but he himself knew that the competition was stiff and that he might actually have to breach the 90-meter mark if he were to win a gold. He was actually proved right and didn't end up breaching the 90-meter mark, but you can say that it wasn't really down to a lack of trying on his behalf. However, there were circumstances at play that ensured that he wasn't quite at his best when it came to throwing when it mattered the most. Now again, if you go to the first throw itself, you know, we always talk about that if you're going to start something, it has to be started on a positive note. Well, Neeraj didn't exactly have the best of starts in the final because his first throw in itself was marked X, which means it was a foul throw. Anderson Peters, on the other hand, straight out of the gate, lands a 90.21 throw. Instantly, he's leading the pack, and instantly you know that this is going to be a bit of a tall order for Neeraj. Why? Because Neeraj's personal best is 89.94 meters. So if Neeraj had to win a medal, he not only would have to break his personal best, but also breach across the 90-meter mark for the first time in his career. Already things were looking just a little bit tough for Neeraj, but of course, 5 more throws still to go. You'd know that this really wasn't the time to be throwing in the towel just yet, especially if you're a fan of Neeraj Chopra and you know that, sometimes athletes will take a little bit of time. They're not always going to nail their first throw. We reached the second throw and you realize that suddenly the stakes are just that little bit higher because, well, Neeraj started things off and he hit an 82.39 meter throw, but Peters responds by throwing 90.46 and thus actually bettering his own best in this event. So again, he started off in the 90s, his second throw was in the 90s, and suddenly you're thinking, okay, a tough task already got a lot tougher. And again, remember, 82.39 did not have Neeraj in medal contention after the second throw was thrown. So at this point, things were looking a little ominous, and you knew that Neeraj would have to actually bring out his best in the coming few rounds if he had to stand any chance of coming home with even a medal, never mind just being the gold medal winner, because at this point, there were already a couple of athletes who had breached the 85-meter mark in terms of throws. So again, at this point too, Neeraj was not in medal contention. Obviously going to be a few nerves. Comes to throw 3, and now at last we're starting to see the Neeraj that we know. 86.37 meter throw. He's getting closer to that magical 90-meter mark. And what was worrisome, and it was a sign of things to come in many ways, was that Peters wasn't really letting off that much. Again, Peters may have landed in 87.21 as his third throw, but he already had a first throw and a second throw which were breaching the 90-meter mark. So he needn't have worried. So you can say that this was more or less a case of maybe Peters taking his foot off the gas just a little bit, but Neeraj knew, at that point he knew that he would have to be bettering even that. And come the fourth attempt, well, he ended up doing just that. 88.13 meters, and now you're seeing a Neeraj who is finally in his zone at long last. Why? Because you note for a fact that he can be in around the 88-89 meters mark with little to no effort. That is where he is at his comfort zone, and he managed to actually outthrow Peters on the fourth attempt, because again 88.11 was what Peters threw, but again what Peters throws here matters little because he was already leading, and he was the only one who breached the 90-meter mark at that point, or indeed even in the end, as you'd see, he was the only one who managed to breach the 90-meter mark. So all to do for Neeraj at this point, but, and this is something that we only got to know afterwards, is that after the fourth throw, when Neeraj threw his best in this particular event, he felt a bit of a strain in his groin. So due to that, he wasn't able to be at his absolute best, or in fact, he was nowhere near his best in the last two throws, because as you can see, in the fifth throw, it was a foul throw, and Peters at that point was really easing off, because as you can see, 85.83, he knows at this point, arguably his biggest competitor was already struggling. Not only was Neeraj unable to breach the 90-meter mark, but by the time we reached the penultimate throw, Neeraj was already struggling with an injury, so he would need something really special if he had to even breach the 90-meter mark, never mind try and challenge Peters. But the sixth throw was where whatever little doubt there was over the destination of the gold medal was put to rest, because Peters, who had already thrown twice in the 90-meter mark, ended up breaching the 90-meter mark for a third time, and in his final throw, he threw his best distance. So 90.54 meters, you know for a fact, it's a lot tougher, and Neeraj by that point had already thrown a second foul throw. That meant that for Neeraj, the best case scenario at that point would have been getting a medal. And in the end, that is in fact what happened. It's why we have been celebrating and touting Neeraj's achievement. He did manage to get a silver, and the fact is that he did so whilst and he probably could have been challenging for a gold medal had he not had that injury, that groin injury, which really took away a lot from him physically for his final two throws, which also explains why the last two throws, it's a combination of factors why they went for fouls, because again, there was obviously pressure there because he knew he had to beat Peters' throw, but he was also dealing with an injury. He managed to get through that, of course. Now, of course, he's made history regardless, and one can only be proud of what it is that he's accomplished, because as I was rattling off before, he's done an awful lot, and you can argue that he still has at least another Olympics or two left in his tank. So massive achievement for Neeraj Chopra. Of course, him winning gold would have been much better, but we'll take a silver medal anyway, because it is showing some degree of progress for Indians in track and field events and in athletics. So thank you so much for joining us in this particular video. How did you enjoy Neeraj's performance, and where would you rate it among his more finer ones? Please do let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Last but not least, don't forget to tap the bell icon so that you know every single time it is we're going live or uploading a video for you guys. Also, don't forget to follow us across platforms, because we're there on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Last but not the least, please do download the AajTak app for all the latest sports news at your fingertips. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Reyes, and I will be with you guys once again very soon. A lot of action coming up today. So bye-bye.